All right, folks, let's talk a little bit about PAs here today. A while back I did a video on my acoustic pedal board, which is kind of a mess down here. I'm changing some things out, building an electric guitar rig and moving some stuff around and all kinds of fun stuff, so it's kind of a mess down here. But a lot of questions. I put a video up on this thing and had like thousands of people look at it, which was crazy. And so, but I had a lot of people send me emails and questions and things like that asking me about amplification and do I use an acoustic amp and that kind of stuff, and I don't. I just use a PA. So I thought, what the heck, I would just do a little video about the PA and talk about some of the cool stuff that I've gone through. This is kind of like the third pretty major iteration of a PA. I'm super happy with this little PA. It sounds really good, very easy to use. I'll talk about some of the stuff that I have in the rack over here, which is not much. So anyway, we'll talk about that, and then I'll actually even I've got this new DriveRack, this DBX DriveRack PA2, and we'll talk a little about that, and I'll actually ring out my little basement area here, which is I use as a rehearsal room and other stuff, but we'll kind of walk through that. But we'll start over here with the speakers. So been a super fan of the JBL PRX stuff. These are the PRX712s, and they're just great. I don't have a bad thing to say about them. They just sound real good. They got a real nice kind of hi-fi sound to them. There's plenty of power. I think they're over 1,000 watts. I don't know exactly what the wattage is on them. Maybe like 1,500 watts or something like that. But they're super loud if you need them to be loud. But even quiet, they just sound really, really good. And so I use two of those. These are also, I use them for floor monitors. You can see I've got the JBL PRX712 on the ground over there. And then I've got the 18-inch subs that match those. So if I'm playing a bigger gig or doing something with the band, then we bring those out and then we use the 712s here as monitors. But I can't say enough about them. They're not the cheapest speakers in the world. I know a lot of people kind of go back and forth. The QSCs are really nice. I didn't AB them or listen to them, so I don't really have a reference point there. But I just went with the JBLs. I've used them in the past and just liked them. For the little rack, I've just got a little SKB rack, and then the console that I use is this really cool console from Mackie called the DL1608. It's a 16-channel mixer, which is more than I typically ever need, and it's a great mixer. It's got a bunch of built-in DSP stuff that's really cool. There's a bunch of videos on YouTube if you wanted to go check out how that works. It does require an iPad. You don't have to have one in the docked here, cradled here. You can just connect to it over Wi-Fi if you wanted to do that. But I do keep one here, and then I'll also show the wireless as well. So this thing has an RJ45 out, and then in the back of my rack over here I've got an access point with two things plugging into it. One of them is the Mackie, and the other one is this DBX DriveRack, which I can actually control wirelessly too, which is one of the big reasons that I upgraded to that from the DriveRack PX, which is optimized for powered speakers, but didn't have, you had to do everything from the front console. You couldn't be standing away from the PA. You had to come back up and mess with the buttons and things like that, and it was just kind of a pain. So now there's an app for it on my iPad. I can stand out by the RTA microphone and actually control all that. So basically the way that this is racked up is the console outputs left and right come into the DriveRack PA2, and then this actually has the ability, if you want to like bi-amp mains, then you can do that, or you can have mid-high and then the subs, and then there's all kinds of stuff here we'll talk about in a second. But then the output of those, I bought this little HOSA panel so that I could run everything from here. So typically I just do the mains and the subs. But it sure makes it a lot easier, especially in cramped quarters sometimes, than having to plug the speakers in for, or plug the outputs into the unit, the DBX unit behind there. So now I just have a cable that goes here for the subs, a cable that goes here for the mains, and then when I'm wiring everything up, I can just put the mains here and the subs here. It works out really, really great. I don't know if it's a quirky thing or not. Sometimes my iPad, I need to reboot it after I power up. Sometimes when you just power everything up, if the iPad still has battery or whatever, it won't detect. And so if you click the little button here, you can see that it's wired. If you have one over wireless, if I had this thing hooked up to the wireless here, I could connect to it over wireless as well, even, which I've had to do before in a pinch. And there's some demo modes in here as well. But anyway, that thing works really, really, really well. And then just real quick, also on the front panel here, just to show you some of the other stuff that I run. So there's the DriveRack, which is the speaker management system, and then there's a Furman, which just is basically power. And then I have a TC Electronics and M1 XL, and I use that for reverb. The Mackie does have DSP into it, and the reverb isn't bad, but I'm kind of picky about it, and I've just been able to get a really good sound here. And this one also, I can do the preset that I have as a reverb, but then I also put a little like a de-esser in front of it, so you can run two effects. It's a stereo unit, but you can run them in series essentially. So I do that, and it just works really well. And then I bought this off of Amazon. I bought this little drawer here, which I don't know why I haven't done this a long time ago, but I recently just bought this. And so I keep, when I'm doing acoustic gigs, keep just the microphones that I'm going to take in here. I keep a Leatherman knife in here, just a few tools. And then I've got a little switch here, a foot switch that I can use. You can see right now it's changing the tap delay time, but I switch it over where it turns off the reverb. So I can just pull the foot switch out. I keep it wired up in the back. There's holes in the back of the drawer, and I keep it wired up, and then I can just put the foot switch out for me. And then if I just want to kick the reverb off, I can do that with the foot switch. So that's pretty much all there is. It's the rack's not very heavy. I can carry it around by myself. It's a pretty simple rig. So that's the PA. Let's go over. We'll switch over to the DriveRack now. All right, let's do the DriveRack setup here. So you download the app from DBX. You can just go look for DBX in the store, and then once you're on the same wireless as your device is connected to, then you can do a scan. And if it doesn't show up, you can do a manual entry. You can go look on the front panel, go to the system screen or something like that. It'll tell you what the IP address is that the device has gotten. But then once you click on this, then it's going to show you whatever is configured, because I already had this configured at some point. And so you can come back in here and you can look and see auto EQs and things like that. Or you can come back over here and just come through the process of running all the wizards. So let's just do new settings. We'll just walk through this from the beginning here and give you an idea of what's going to happen. So what I'm doing here is this is like a basement area in my house, and we use this as a practice area. And so you can see it's kind of it's a cool spot, but the way we have it set up is the speakers are over there, and then the vocalists stand back over here where I'm standing, and then drums and then musicians and stuff kind of make their way around. So it's not sort of traditional. We don't have the monitors on the floor. We use them like mains, but the microphones are far enough away that we can actually get stuff turned up pretty loud and get it sounding pretty good down here. So I've got my DBX, the RTA mic. We'll run like 3 positions here to build an EQ and kind of go from there. So I'm going to pick stereo, dual mono. I'm going to pick JBL, and I'm going to pick the 612M, which they have right here. Close enough. I have the 712M. The 612M is good. I am not using subs. If you pick a non-powered speaker, it's going to ask you to pick an amplifier. In my case, as I mentioned, the JBLs are powered. So it automatically picks that for me. I keep mine about 75% where they're turned up to. We're going to apply those changes. Now what's cool about this versus the PX is that it runs a sine wave instead of running white noise or pink noise, whatever it was through there. So it's a lot less obtrusive if you're trying to run a room. Before it was that really sound. Now it's just a sine wave, and you'll hear that here. So we're kind of in the middle, as much in the middle as we possibly can. So we did a level assist there. Let's just go ahead and do 3 spots. There's the 3 spots. We're going to use 1, and then we're going to kind of come up this way and come back that way. Let's put this kind of right here, sort of. Not ideal, of course, but it'll get the job done here. So let's run. Now let's move it up. It's a little bit this way. Once again, this is not. And finally, back over here, kind of in this spot. Now to calculate the automatically calculate the EQ, and then of course we can save that. So it's kind of cool. You can run a room, and then whatever you do on the Mackie, you can save that as well. So when you just come into a room again for the next time, you just bring up all your levels, all the EQs and everything are set. So you can see here, this is the target. The yellow shows the target that we're looking for. The green is the result. And then there's various different sections here. So we've got a little bump around 80. Down here we've got this hole kind of right around 500 where the big wide Q kind of pulls that up out of there, and then there's a little bump at about 1.5K, another little bump at about 8K or something like that. So we'll continue from there. Now we're going to run the suppression, the feedback. So here's one thing I just figured out. This is only the 3rd or 4th time that I've done this. The thing that you have to do, and this is a cool thing on the new PA2, is it gives you on the front panel the ability to do it like a very quick mute. So this is really great, left and right. You know, if you're trying to got all your speakers set up, you're trying to figure out, you know, like if you're getting signal to everything, sometimes that's harder to figure out, especially on subs when you got the music cranked up. So you can actually just start turning everything off and on. But when you run through the RTA setup, it'll actually mute these. So when you're doing the automatic the feedback suppression, you have to unmute those. So now what we're going to do, no noise gates. So we're going to lower all the outputs. We need 6 filters, music. Now what we're going to do is have our microphone here, and I'll bring this over here so we can kind of see what's going to happen here when we do this. We're going to bring the level up and get these microphones to feed back. Whoop. It's not going to feed back like that because it's muted. So let's do this. So all our fixed filters are set. Now we can pull all of our volumes back down. So we had some high-end stuff going on here. And so now you can see these are the filters, these fixed filters. So we got one at 10K, one at 3K, 10, 11, about 9K, 7K. So those are our feedback suppression. That's all built in. And so now we're done. So we can come over here, we could do subharmonic synth. We could come back over here and turn a compressor on if we wanted to. We could do input delay if we needed to do that for some reason, if you needed to have that feature. And then we of course got the crossover here. This is locked for those speakers. Obviously we don't need that in this scenario because everything's going through that. You do have a parametric EQ, which is kind of cool if you needed to mess with that and do an EQ there. And then of course you have alignment delay as well if you needed that particular feature there. And this is another thing that's actually kind of cool too. I've got that RTA mic still turned on, So if you had this and you had this, wanted to set this up out in a mixed position or something, then you could do that. And so you can see that as I'm talking into the RTA mic here, hello, 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 then we get some signal there. And so from this point, you know, we could come over here and, you know, and there's a little help button here. And so also you have the ability to come in here and check for firmware and stuff like that. So at this point we could store this, right? So we could store this setting. Oh, we need to go down here. There's some user options down here. Let's put this in. Pick this one, and then we'll store it. Now we're going to rename this one and call this basement, and then just say 712s. Okay. So we should be good to go there. And you can see down on the screen there, we've got the basement 712 option there ready to go. And so, you know, also just, you know, you can do all this stuff on the unit here. So you could click the wizard. Here's the utility button that I was talking about. If you wanted to go see the IP address and all that kind of fun stuff, you could do that there. You can get to any of those modes directly on the front of the screen here as well too. So anyway, that's how all that stuff works. You know, if you guys have any questions or anything, post away. Happy to answer any questions. I've actually gigged this a couple times, been super happy with it. And I'll just get a little bit more comfortable with it every time we take it out. But anyway, thanks for watching.
Is the sugar so sweet? It's the kind of laughter meet you every night. Until no one else about it.